Hi, I'm Tim. Welcome to our channel, and thanks for logging on. If you enjoy these videos, do me a favor and subscribe to our YouTube channel right here at Watchbox Reviews. I'd really appreciate it, and then I could send watches like this to your inbox as soon as tomorrow morning. If you like this watch, you can buy it on thewatchbox.com. Buy, trade, and sell luxury watches 24 hours a day and globally on thewatchbox.com. We are officially everywhere. The timepiece on my wrist is the Habring Doppel 3 from the adorable husband and wife team of Richard and Maria Habring. Based out of Volkermarkt, Austria, they built about 20, sometimes as few as 12 examples of each model per year, and production rarely surpasses 150 pieces. So to own one of these watches is to really dig into one of the niches of high horology, albeit one with an extraordinary pedigree. Independent horology is cool today, but Richard Habring was part of IWC in 1992 when the first Doppel chrono, the IWC Pilot's Doppel chrono, was brought to market. Now, established under his own marquee in the 2000s, the Doppel 2, the successor once the IWC copyrights lapsed, was an upgraded version of his original design in 2012, and 2013 saw the arrival of the Doppel 3. So the Doppel 2 and the Doppel 3 can always be told apart because the Doppel 3 features these winglet-like chronograph pushers. It is technically a mono-pusher rattrapant, and you can see one on each side distinguishes the 3 from the more conventional 2 on one side Doppel 2. So what do you get? Well, you get 42 millimeters, in this case in titanium. Some metal options exist. They also are made in steel. This one is fly tie and 42 millimeters. From lug to lug, you'll find that the span is 52.4, but it wears well on a smaller wrist because the lugs are rather stubby and nicely down tapered. You'll also note it is a thick watch, as Habring's design democratized the split-second chronograph, but it did depend on a Valjoux 7750 base. So you wind up having the 7750 and the Habring original watchmaking in a 15.5 millimeter thick case, and should you wish to accessorize, this one's on a Habring factory strap. 22 millimeters is the lug spacing. The timepiece has a simple but substantial calfskin strap with sheer sides. You can actually see the folded layers, a handsome contrasting white stitch. You'll note that there is a substantial pin buckle, and this one is actually in stainless steel, as you can see, though the watch itself is titanium. There's absolutely no constraint to the movement of the strap. You can pull it straight down around the tight curve of a small wrist. You'll note there is a little bit of a contrast in the finish, as there's a vertical satin grain between the lugs. And then you have a longitudinal satin finish that runs the flank of the case, and you can see it's echoed in the bezel as well as the case back. The pump pushers are standard, somewhat vintage inspired, and the case itself is simple in profile with a judiciously rounded bezel that really softens the look of the watch, even as the lugs themselves are sharp, strident, and clearly defined. Now you will note the watch has an exceptionally domed box section sapphire that I find gorgeous. Box section sapphires always cost a little bit more to make than flat, and I appreciate their presence whenever found. The dial, and we do need to get close here because the dial is sensational, is probably the heart and soul of the watch. As distinctive as the flanking split-second pushers are, the dial is what's really special. There's a differential metallic finish about the dial center and the hour track, which is why you see two separate metallic blue tones. You can see that it is a loomed watch, and there will be a loom shot at the end. This is a sports watch, and there's a railroad-style track with triangular indices outboard for reading the minutes as well as the chronograph seconds precisely, with applied and loomed Arabic 12 and 6 anchoring the dial. Sunken subs with an azurage guilloche cut, and you'll note high contrast with differential hand design for running seconds at 9 o'clock and chronograph minutes at 3. Now, about that split seconds function, you can see that there are two different colored hands, both of them happily high contrast. Frankly, I think all split second hands should be painted or lacquered in some fashion. I often see polished split second hands used, and frankly, there's just not enough contrast. Habring did it right. Now, Richard Habring's engineering is built on top of a Valjoux 7750 base, albeit shorn of its automatic mechanism. You will note that the 4 Hz beat rate, or 28,800 vibration per hour beat rate, is present and correct, as is the hacking or stop seconds functionality. Now, because it is a mono pusher, Although you can operate the split seconds function while the watch continues to run, once you stop the entire assembly, you do have to reset and then restart. That's why it's called a mono-pusher rattrapant, even though clearly there are two pushers. Now, winding this manual wind watch is a pleasure. It sounds good, it feels good, and I have to say, it's a rewarding wind. You will enjoy interacting with your watch on a daily basis. Now, what you're winding is a A08 base, so it's an upsized Valjoux 7750. Let's get as close as we can, try to stay in focus, and you'll note that Habring has done an amazing amount of manufacturer watchmaking in this thing. It's delivered as a chronometer grade A08 from ETA, and I've confirmed that by inspecting the hairspring and the balance design. Then Habring creates this proprietary split-second chronograph mechanism on a proprietary bridge. I'm going to show you how this works. So now we're running. We're going to reset and restart. It's a cam-based system. Restart. Okay, now we're moving again. Let's say I want to split the seconds. You can see the pincers and the slider of the split second system stopping and then returning the rattrapant seconds hand to action. All of this is water resistant, 250 meters, so I wouldn't call it an aquatic watch, but nor does it have 20 to 30 meter dress watch water resistance. It's a hearty soul too, as these A08s are tough basic movements, and this one is handsomely finished. Though it's not what you would call high horology execution, there's a judicious use of machine-executed polish, satin graining, as well as perlage patterns across, and it is pleasing. The aesthetic is worth its sapphire display caseback, and I think to be able to view one of the most historically important chronograph mechanisms of all time, the Richard Habring design that created the split-second Volks chrono, you definitely want to be able to visually access and enjoy that for which you've paid and that to which history has paid tribute. This is a fine watch with bulletproof running gear from one of the most charming of the modern crop of independent horology houses. One of the few watches you'll find made in Austria with a heritage that can be traced back to Schaffhausen. This is the Habring Doppel 3. See it and own it on the watch box. And we're back with the Habring Doppel 3. You can't see the seconds hands in the dark, so beating away at 28.8 on their 23 joules. They're going to be MIA when the lights go out, but you have to admit it is a highly legible watch and easy to read at a glance. If I didn't know better, my first instinct would be to say Panerai. It's a good looking watch day or night. See it with full boxes, papers, and accessories on the watch box.